Hi, thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks, Jordan, for introducing me, and thanks, Liz and Thelma, for coming. I composed a theme song for the show, so I'm gonna start with that. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple songs, and then Liz is going to come up and read. The first one I'm going to do is from a new record I've been recording. It's about, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I think a lot about moving to LA, and I wonder what it would be like to live there in the sunshine, especially this time of year. I don't know if anybody else has a seasonal affective issue. When it starts to get dark, I start to get more sad than usual. So yeah, I wrote this song about not going to LA. I've been telling everyone I know that when September comes I'll make my move. I'll change my email, lose my phone, I'll shave my head and buy new clothes, and let the Santa Ana winds just blow away these old computer blues that I've accrued. So I picked a U-Haul up in Queens, packed up my things, and bid my last adieus. But as I drove through New Jersey, I'd have thought that did disturb me. Maybe winter's not a season, it's a state of being, that just being in a warm state won't help me lose. And so I won't be moving out to Los Angeles this fall after all. I got a mother that I just can't please. I got a lover that I just can't leave. Now I've signed along the dotted line and I've turned in my keys. But I'm nowhere close to Los Angeles. So I'm driving back to New York to the tune of California, here we come. My cat curls up in the shotgun seat and she gives one of those looks to me that seems to say, well, that was quite the stunt you pulled, you old son of a gun. I have to think about what you've done. Oh, wouldn't my life be so much better? Wouldn't all my problems sort of disappear? If I could find the courage down to turn the speed and dump around, drag it all behind me into the sunset, lighten up my rearview mirror, perhaps another year. And so I won't be moving out to Los Angeles this fall. After all, I got a lover that I just can't leave. I got a mother that I just can't please. And I've signed a long dotted line and I've turned in my keys. But I'm nowhere close to Los Angeles. All right, thank you. This is an older tune about a computer. It's called a laptop. I've since switched to using a desktop since I wrote it, and my life has vastly improved. I no longer use my computer in bed, which is huge for me. I sleep a lot better because of the less blue light. All right, a laptop. My laptop glows like the moon. It's the only light in this shithole of a room. It's burning my eyes. It's burning my thighs. And I don't think I'll ever shut it down. Don't leave me alone. Don't turn off the show. 'Cause I don't think that I'll survive the silence. How long has it been? I'll pretend I know what day it is. Oh, my laptop, it eases the time between all the moments that make up a life. The food in my bed, the jars full of piss. I never meant for you to see me like this. But now that you're here, it's nice, but it's weird. So lower yourself closer to my level. You don't have to leave, just keep talking to me until I can fall asleep. Oh, my laptop, it's warm like the sun, and in good time it'll cool and grow and swallow this mess of mine. It's burning my eyes, it's burning my thighs, and I don't think I'll ever shut it down. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. How's your week been?
My week?
Yeah.
It was okay.
So you started tracking your next album this week, right?
I did. I was at a studio over the weekend, and then I've been kind of like running around to people's houses. Got like a steel guitar player and a electric guitar player, and I've been like going to their houses to get stuff from them.
Is it gonna be good?
No.
Cool. Well, our first guest is Liz Pelly. Sorry, I'm in a terrible mood. Life is garbage, and I'm really sad. Please welcome Liz Pelly. She's a contributing editor for the Baffler. She has a monthly column about this terrible dystopian streaming economy we all live in, and she's going to read a short piece of her recent writing for you.
Anyway, I'm going to read something. It's not that recent, actually. This is an excerpt from an article that I wrote last December for issue 37 of the Baffler magazine, themed Power, Corruption, and Lies. It's a really good issue. And the piece was called The Problem with Muzak, Spotify's Bid to Remodel an Industry. And it covers a lot of different topics related to the music streaming economy, kind of comes at Spotify from a lot of different angles. But the section that I'm going to read is one that I don't talk about as often as people want to talk about other sections of the article. And it's the section that's about corporate branded playlists on Spotify. And the name of the section is The Automation of Selling Out. Advertising and branding products are used all over Spotify. Videos, audio, commercial breaks, clickable pop-up images, overlays, the sponsoring of extremely popular Spotify-owned playlists, the sponsoring of live session videos, homepage takeovers, standalone advertisements. Some are banner advertisements, others are advertorial, and still others blur the line. For independent artists, using the service is part of a grander confusion. The very idea of what it means to be independent in 2017, this piece is from 2017, has been eroded as more and more artists find themselves beholden to corporate platforms of all types. Spotify also presents a new and complicated extension of hyper-commercial web space, and it's a development that could prove to be particularly harmful for musicians, the corporate branded playlist. This feature could be explained as the platform's interpretation of corporate personhood, where paid-for brand accounts can create their own profiles and make playlists in the manner of the platform's regular users. This has led to a proliferation of playlists made by brands. For example, the Coffee House Pop playlist made by the official Starbucks page, or Running Tempo Mix created by Nike Women. So long as corporations have at least 20 songs on their playlists and don't include an artist more than once, they're good. In the past, such an arrangement would require an artist to sign a licensing or advertising deal, and it often appeared as transactional, hence the traditional notion of selling out. Today on Spotify, artists often have no idea that they've been added to these playlists. I only managed to discover this phenomenon upon plugging a friend's band name into a tool called Spot on Track, which uses Spotify's public API to present the different playlists where specific artists and their tracks appear. My friend's band was completely unaware of its inclusion on both Nike and Starbucks playlists, as the band receives no additional compensation beyond the usual streaming royalties sent to labels and rights holders. We should call this what it is, the automation of selling out, only it subtracts the part where artists get paid. On their brand playlist guidelines page linked within the company's terms and conditions, Spotify offers telling advice to brands. This is what Spotify writes on their terms and conditions. Quote, if you have a reason to believe a specific artist may have a problem with your brand, it's probably smart to stay away from that artist. Keep your playlist editorial in nature. Don't try to make it a commercial for your product. Just like other Spotify users do, show the world what kind of music your brand likes to listen to while partying, driving, or enjoying a cup of coffee. End quote. It is absurd to suggest that a playlist created by Bacardi, Gatorade, BMW, or Victoria's Secret could exist for any purpose other than the sale of liquor, sports drinks, cars, or fancy lingerie. And this encouragement of a false sense of objectivity found on Spotify's terms and services is actually nowhere to be found on Spotify's Spotify for Brands website, where it has published a series of articles alluring corporations to the platform. So, for example, there's a section of this website where they talk all about the importance of music in Super Bowl commercials, and then they go on to directly equate branded playlists with a similar form of a similar expression of commercialism. Quote, using music effectively can also mean curating the perfect playlist that reflects the sound of your brand, they write on the Spotify for Brands website. Brand playlists are advertisements, even if Spotify strives to imbue them with so-called editorial integrity. Such uncompensated advertorial playlists are harmful in that they offer artists no option to opt out, but also because they undercut what can sometimes be a valuable source of revenue for artists. If brands can align themselves with artists without having to pay specifically for individual tracks or artist appearances, what do we think they'll do? Can we at least give people the option to sell out if they want to? Question mark. So that's the excerpt that I'm reading. And then the piece goes on for 3,000 more words. So if you want to read it, you can find it really easily on the internet.
So, I feel like people have been trained to understand that the music industry and all of the small industries around it, like radio and MTV and like big box music wholesalers like Virgin. People have been trained that these things are kind of inherently bad and exploitative, and even if they don't know why, it's just assumed that artists are being exploited and money is being stolen from them. A lot of the response that I see to your writing about Spotify tends to fall in line of, oh, well, there's no alternative to this. Like, everything's bad. Why give a shit? Could you just explain what is it about Spotify that's uniquely a problem?
Well, I feel like in the current music streaming economy, Spotify is interesting because, there's a number of competitors, right? There's Spotify, there's Apple Music, there's Amazon Music, and Tidal, and all of these other services, Deezer, Tencent. But in the current economy, Spotify is interesting because a lot of those other companies, like Amazon and Apple specifically, they invest in streaming because they make their products more valuable. Like for Apple, having Apple Music makes iPhones and speakers that they're selling more valuable. Or like for Amazon, it makes Alexas more valuable for them to have Amazon Music, and they're sort of optimizing those platforms to work well with the hardware that they sell. Whereas with Spotify, the product that they're selling to people and the way that they're sort of developing a sense of trust or love of their brand is by knowing your tastes and sort of having these music discovery products like Discovery Weekly or their flagship playlist brands or your daily mix or kind of, that sense of showing you what type of music you like and being like an avenue for editorial products and discovery products. So I think that that's kind of in the bigger picture of music streaming services. What makes Spotify different from the other ones, I think, is like the extent to which editorial and discovery and sort of becoming a part of the process of artists distributing and promoting and releasing their music and connecting with fans. It's like such a bigger piece of that puzzle. And then in terms of the conversation about, you know, things have always been fucked, why is this any different? I always think about, you know, like this thing that I remember, I interviewed Maggie Vale last year about Cash Music, this organization that makes open source tools for artists. And she said something sort of along the lines of, you know, artists have always been exploited, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't push back and advocate for artists. Like, just because it's worse than ever now doesn't mean that we shouldn't have been advocating for artists before. So personally, I feel like, you know, just because stuff has always been bad doesn't mean that we shouldn't recalibrate the way that we push back and think about what are the new systems that we need to interrogate today that, you know, like in the past, maybe it was independent labels pushing back against major labels or independent record shops pushing back against big box stores. And today, like, what we need to sort of like pry open conversations about and push back against is the music streaming economy.
Do you think that music streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music are training people that all music costs a set low price a month, or are they able to monetize people who have already trained themselves that you don't buy records, you just get it whenever you want it from the internet?
Well, it definitely plays into this cultural norm that there already was a precedent for, that, you know, we should always have access to everything, or this kind of like encourages like instant gratification culture, I think, that we already have been living in. But I don't think that it does much in terms of teaching society to value music more, you know, like saying that, you know, before you were stealing music and now you can have music for all 30 million songs for $9. To me, one of the reasons why I personally hate listening to albums on Spotify is that I feel like I'm stealing from artists.
Did you steal music when you were younger?
Like on Napster?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, we all had Napster and downloaded tons of music and
Kazaa
stuff like that.
or LimeWire?
I had
which
Napster and Kazaa.
Yeah, hell yeah. That shit ruined my computer.
I had the same.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the first thing you stole off the internet was?
Yeah, Jude Law and A Semester Abroad by Brand New.
Oh, yeah, that's a good answer.
I remember like the moment. I remember who told me to type it into the box.
Who told you to type it into the box?
It was me and my sister's friend Alyssa, who lived down the block from us.
Cool.
Old family friend.
Is she cool?
Yeah, she's awesome.
Okay, sick. Doug, what about you? What's the first shit you stole off the
It was
internet?
definitely Country Grammar by Nelly.
Oh, that...
that like came out, I remember really
That's almost my answer. I downloaded Napster the month after that came out. That's like one of the last CDs I bought in my adolescence. That's a good CD. What do you... Because we're all like late 20s-ish. Yeah. I feel like our generation is kind of on like this very important cultural cusp where everything became available at once. Like, I remember a time where I had to wait to hear an album, and then people who were like 5 years younger from us don't remember that. Like, there's no there's no real gatekeeper that's imposed on you once you stop wanting it. Like, the moment you want something, you can get it. And besides that, like, there's nothing really restricting you. Do you think that's a better way to consume stuff? Like, it feels like the kind of like the toothpaste is out of the tube, and it has been for almost 2 decades now. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's good that it came out or bad that it came out?
That's interesting. I definitely feel like the way that things are now really divorces people from the realities of what go into making music happen or making records happen, or all of the work that goes into like it's Friday and there's a new album out and Spotify tells you that it's come out, like all of the work that went into that happening. I feel like people are really separated from like all of the work that goes into like making a record happen. And I think the like instant gratification culture, be able to access everything all at once, is, I don't think that it is like superior to there being some sort of like mechanism that requires you to think about, oh, it's okay, these are the artists I like, I'm going to follow them, these are the record labels that I like, I'm going to see what they're putting out, this is the music blog that I like finding out, like having to have more intention about stuff, or it being like a little bit harder to, I don't obviously it's complicated, because the reason why, as a person who has always hated the mainstream music industry and the major label system, it's because of the sense of scarcity that system creates around the presence that music has in people's lives. So you risk sort of going back in that direction to be like, no, it was better when it was harder to get access to music, because it's really cool that for music in general to be this thing that people have more access to, but when it's at the expense of it being commodified so that companies like Spotify can put it next to advertising products, it's actually like all the same. Like, it's not making it better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, parts of it. I don't agree with that entirely, but I'm also not a professional musician. Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I mean, there's definitely something that's that feels more gross about Spotify than Napster, and I think it's because Napster, you're just stealing it, but yeah, you weren't like giving money to corporations or something while you were stealing
Napster
it.
Also didn't guide you, so there's a part of it that feels like more genuine in a way that I don't actually think is like real or meaningful, but it is a vibe that was there that isn't there with Spotify. Like, Spotify is actively selling you things, and Napster's not selling you shit.
Right. I have a really distinct memory of when Lars Ulrich from Metallica, like, he was the guy, or the first person that I remember publicly being like, Napster's like really bad, we're suing them, Metallica wants more money. And I just remember, I mean, I think since then, Lars has been a villain to me.
Every year you lose a little bit of security, but it gets like replaced with like more choices or more opportunities, and they don't really necessarily mean anything, but you're constantly being told that it's easier and you could do it yourself better. And the little bits of like stability and security that artists used to have is just like constantly getting chipped away at, especially now that Spotify is actively trying to replace record labels, which is like the small bit of collectivity that artists used to have. You wrote about this in your last column that went up earlier this month.
Yeah, I think everything that you're just saying like really speaks to this sort of like false sense of convenience for artists that's afforded by the platform economy, and for fans too. Like, everything seems more convenient and more optimized, but it's at the expense of sort of like watering down a lot of the connections that people have with the music that they listen to, or sort of like the actual community that gets forged amongst artists and labels and spaces and record stores and stuff. And yeah, that's something that I think about a lot. And what you're also saying, the article that I also think a lot about, just in general, like the rise of false independence through streaming services. Not necessarily, like, a lot of people who hear that I write about this topic will be like, oh, so you think independent music doesn't exist anymore, independent music is doomed or something. And that's definitely like untrue and false. Like, I don't think that independent music is doomed. I think there's always going to be vibrant underground scenes, no matter how challenging it becomes for people to make those things happen, or how challenging it becomes for artists to make a living. I wish that it wasn't so challenging, so that people who make music didn't have to be living in such precarious circumstances all the times. But yeah, what I do worry about is this, like, so I don't worry about like the about actual independent culture like dissolving, but the sort of like rise of false independence, where these services like sort of push this narrative that if you work directly with them or cater to the things that are required to get on their playlists or be noticed by algorithms, or if you like license your music directly in some cases, which they're trying to do now, that you will be empowered as an independent artist. But like actually what it does is just tie artists more closely to the center of power in music. And it's sort of like, I don't know, there's this idea, something I've been thinking about a lot is that there's this idea that the streaming economy makes it easier to be an independent artist, but I actually think that it makes it easier to not be an independent artist. It makes it easier to be an artist who is like completely at the whim of the centers of power in the music industry.
Right. Well, definitely what you were saying about, and I feel like this is a point you made in the article that you read from, about, you know, like being on like a branded playlist is not something that's inherently appealing to me as an artist, but it's like I wouldn't turn it down, you know.
How much agency do you really feel like artists have in this system? Like, can artists opt out?
I think it depends what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish in terms of the extent to which music is your career, or what your lines are or whatever. I think that's something that everyone has to draw for themselves. But I think it's possibly harder and harder for people to take really principled stances in an economy that makes it hard for people to even really understand the politics of the tools that are becoming increasingly interwoven into their lives. So yeah, that's why I think these kinds of conversations are important, so that people can, you know, really pick apart the environment that they're in and decide for themselves what they're comfortable with or what they want to be part of.
Doug, how do you feel?
Good.
Cool. I know how much money you made off Spotify in the last year. Do you want me to say it?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, Liz, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Doug, you want to play another song?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. So
let's...
Doug emailed me and asked if I had any requests, and I made a request, or asked if there were any songs that like resonated with the topic that I write about, and I asked if Doug would learn how to play the song "Everything Is Free" by Gillian Welch, because there actually was just this article in Rolling Stone about how this song was sort of having a resurgence because of the ways that artists were sort of reimagining it in the streaming era. And it's a song that Gillian Welch originally wrote more in like the Napster era, about, you know, the effects of the new economy of music on artists' lives. And the thing that this song like really stings, I think, to listen to it in this context. And I feel like that we were talking about this a little bit before, but I just feel like in the face of a lot of the ways that music is changing, it's easy to be really angry. But I feel like this song communicates just like the inherent sadness of it too, and really like gets at it, the emotional core of what is so troubling about the new era of music that we're in
Hell yeah. Liz, that's a great intro. You're killing it. Doug, you want to get to it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Can I have some more reverb on the mic again?
Yeah.
Thank you. I spent some time, I've been learning this song. I spent some time before I came here because the whole time I learned the song, I didn't know, and I was familiar with her work before, but I didn't know how to pronounce Gillian Welch. So I had to look it up on the internet. It's a hard G, by the way. Everything is free now, that's what they say. Everything I ever done, gonna give it away. Someone hit the big score, figured it out, that we're gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. I could get a tip jar, gas up my car, and try to make a little change over at the bar. Or I could get a straight job, I've done it before, never minded working hard, it's who I'm working for. 'Cause everything is free now, that's what they say. And everything I ever done, gonna give it away. Someone hit the big score, figured it out, that we're gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. Every day I wake up humming a song, but I don't need to run around, I stay at home and sing a little love song, my loving myself. If there's something that you want to hear, you can sing it yourself. 'Cause everything is free now, that's what they say. Everything I ever done, gonna give it away. Someone hit the big score, figured it out, that we're gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay.
That was great. Oh, God, this week fucking sucks. Once this show's over, I'm just walking onto the BQE and tilting my head towards the sky. Fuck this. Hey, everyone. What's going on? Thanks for coming. That song is really beautiful.
Yeah, it's a good one.
When you were playing that, I realized that, like, under... like, a lot of the assumption that goes behind, like, the mentality behind music being free, or I mean, like, Spotify, it's not free really, but it's like effectively free. There's no like pro rata paying for any of the music, and underlying that assumption is that doing creative work is a privilege and it's not work. Like, all of the time you spend writing music, all the time you spend tweaking something, that's not labor. It's like, you're lucky to do that, and if anyone gives a shit, then like they're giving you something, not the other way around.
I think both.
Both what?
Both. It's a privilege and it's work.
Oh, well, yeah. But under the assumption that it's just a privilege is why a lot of these things are allowed to proliferate the way they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, that's kind of a bummer. How do I turn this around? I don't know if I can. Sorry, I got dumped this week. I'm in a bad mood. Don't have time for fucking riffs.
You're doing great.
Oh, great. That means a lot, Doug.
Keep that chin out.
BQE. Immediately after the show. You're all welcome. Our next guest is Thelma. She has an album that I got to hear this week, and I don't know if any label has picked it up yet. So if anyone's listening to this, you should hit her up because it is great. Everyone, please welcome Thelma.
Wow, that song was intense. I'd never heard it before. It's a really good song. Thanks for choosing it and playing it. So yeah, I'm going to play a bunch of new songs. None of these are released. I've been playing synth instead of guitar. My arms haven't really been able to play guitar recently, so I kind of did a major shift. So I hope you like it. This song is actually kind of about that. Just as I learned to dance again, I put on dancing alone. In my stillness, I'm reminded that my body always reminds me that it's the Does anyone here use Tinder? I do. I had like way too many weird Tinder romances this year. This song is about falling in love on Tinder and it being very unsuccessful. Now I don't think you're wondering what I've been up to. I've been trying not to rush to the show. I've been trying real hard to slow down this one time. 'Cause time has been feeling so precious in my changing mind. And how I wish there was something I could find to hate about you, to disqualify what I'm feeling. But I don't know you well enough to know when we side. And it's looking like I probably never will. 'Cause you're at a standstill when I refuse to run around you. So I'll run circles in my head and I'll bring people to my bed who I don't really love to distract myself. Your slightly crooked eyes just made me like you more. I want to see them contort with all the feelings. You said you wanna feel, but aren't feeling. It's beautiful, you want to know the full range of being, but for me that's very real, and it's what I'm running Cool, thank you. I was wondering. I was like, I can't hear anything. Thank you. So I've got two more for you guys. Thanks for having me on this very special delivery. Hope my delivery feels special to you. Super excited to be on this one with Liz. I've been following her articles for a while. So, yeah, it's really exciting. This next one's called Sway.
There's a code I'm always trying to break, that with ruthless health and lightness I feel born again. Is this a hoax that
is my last one.
Today, you looked your inner child in the eye, and you told her that she shouldn't cry, but then I cried myself for all the pain that she internalized to make sense of those who couldn't see all of the beauty of a child's body should never be criticized, 'cause they may hate themselves, they may blame themselves for all their life. They may harm themselves, trying anything to feel alive. And even when you learn it's not your fault, shaking off a lapse in love is a lifelong fight. And every day you're trying hard just to be brave for a child screaming bloody murder inside. You know who it is. I would give thought to it, 'cause every child needs someone who really cares what's in their heart and mind. What's in their heart and mind? What's in their heart and mind? What's in their heart and mind? And a child's body should never be tonight, 'cause they may hate themselves, they may blame themselves for all their life. They may harm themselves, trying anything to feel alive. And even when it's not your fault, shaking off a lapse in love is a lifelong fight. Don't make it yourself. Don't you blame yourself for all the time. 'Cause when you're not in the club with the chosen ones, in a world that loves them best, you're worth the fight.
And thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for having me on the show.